Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the CFO Masterclass Academy. Today's topic is process automation from a nice to have to a must have, how to structure your automation program for success. Your speakers for today are Eduardo Diquez and Diego Peña. Before I turn it over to them, I just want to go over a few administrative things. We will have polling questions popping up every so often. Please feel free to answer the questions, keep yourself engaged, and also if you're looking for CPE credit, that's the way to get it. If you have any questions you want to ask, we have a Q&A box at the bottom. You can drop a question there, or you can use the participant feature to raise your hand and someone will call on you. And now I will turn it over to Diego.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you to the CFO Leadership Council for inviting us to participate in this panel today. We will be speaking about automation and give you some ideas, regarding how to structure your automation program for success. So as Rebecca was saying, my name is Diego Peña. I'm the responsible of business development in our firm AU6 with a special focus in the intelligent automation practice. And also together with me is Eduardo Diquez. He's the director of the intelligent automation practice, responsible for all the engagements that we have regarding automation with our clients, leading the delivery teams and support teams. And also Fabiana Corredor, she leads the marketing efforts for AU6, and she will be here helping us with all the questions, finally all the questions that you may have, and the logistics for this conversation. So, the goal, I think, so we have a 55 minutes, 1 hour. The goal is to spend the first half an hour, 25 minutes, sharing with you some of the trends regarding automation, give you some ideas regarding how you can build a successful automation program. And after, we will be happy to address any questions that you may have. But I would like to have an interactive conversation. So in any time that you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, your mic, or to write in the chat the question that you may have. And in this case, Fabiana will help us to address and funnel these questions. So before to start, I would like to give you a quick overview regarding our firm, AU6. Basically, we spent the last 23 years helping mid-market and large corporations optimizing the back office operations. And of course, a finance and accounting is a key area for us. So, we spend a lot of time with CFOs, basically helping you to achieve your process improvement, use cost reductions, increase efficiencies goals, So in order to do that, we have mainly 3 practices: the consulting and the finance transformation. We have the outsourcing component. We have an outsourcing component, an nearshore operation that we outsource all the finance and accounting IT operations for global companies, but with a special focus in the US. And the third component is the intelligent automation practice. And this is the reason because we are here today, based in the expertise that we have in the intelligent automation space, we are going to be able to share with you the lessons learned and some key insights for the RPA industries. So moving to the first slide, here is the 3 key questions that every single of you guys you should asking yourself, and automation, I think, so is going to give you the response, how automation is going to help you to basically get the work done faster and with less people, how automation is going to help you to take faster decisions because you are going to be able to have real-time and real-time analytics, reports, data, etc. And also how automation is going to help you to scale up and down your organization depending on the necessities that you have in that moment in the business, So I think so that one is 3 quick questions, and we can jump, I think so, to give you a quick status regarding how is the world today regarding automation, because I think so everybody's agree, before to the COVID era, automation was a topic that was in mind of more than 50% of the CFOs. The CFOs, they were thinking, okay, I need to standardize my processes. I want and I see the value to automate all the manual process that I have in my organization. In fact, over 50% of the companies have started already the RPA journey, the automation journey, but few of them, there's 3% have been able to span the entire automation journey through the organization, So, it's a fact that RPA is booming in the last 3 years. RPA platforms, several of them reaching like billions of dollars in valuation, etc. So that one is a fact before the COVID era. Right now, after the COVID, I mean, I think so that everybody is realizing that, I mean, you cannot afford to rely in humans, basically, at least for like the more transactional and manual stuff, you know? You don't know if they're gonna be there because maybe they can be sick, or maybe they are there working at home, but they don't have the infrastructure in order to keep the same levels of performance, you know? So this is the reason, because I think so automation in general with the COVID has become more relevant than ever, you know? So with that being said, we are going to jump into the first polling question. As Rebecca was saying, I mean, you can use your devices to vote. And basically, it's like to see what is the status right now in your company regarding intelligent automation. So the quote is, my organization is actively looking to accelerate the intelligent automation journey. So you can vote if you are strongly agree, disagree, or don't know, you know, you don't know. So, I mean, probably it's going to take like a 20, 30 seconds, kind of like to recap all the data. So we can move forward for the sake of the time. We can move forward for the next slide. And once that we have, well, seems like we have it, you know. So, I mean, more than 50%, in fact, like 88% that agree or strongly agree regarding I mean, you are very active, you know, in the intelligent automation journey. That is good, you know, and that one is kind of like how the statistics reflect, you know. I don't think so that nobody disagree, because, I mean, it's a fact that right now more than ever we need like this automation component. So, I mean, that one is kind of like some of the ideas that we are going to share with you during this conversation, you know. We're going to share with you how you can develop a winning business case for the automation program. What is the typical challenge that other companies are facing and how you can avoid them, you know. You should create your in-house COE, or you should leverage other companies, other third parties to do it. And how you can scale that RPA journey or this intelligent automation journey. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm going to pass the floor to Eduardo Dique. So he's going to give you a deeper overview about intelligent automation with a specific focus in the robotic process automation. So, Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Diego. So again, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Happy to be here today. So as Diego mentioned, we want this session to be as interactive as possible. I know at the beginning we're going to be doing most of the talking, but please make sure to, you know, give us your questions so that we can try to address them as best as we can. But to complement a little bit what Diego was mentioning before we move along, the idea today is to really take a look on how to structure this, you know, automation right. One of the biggest pitfalls that we have, and we have seen across all organizations that try to go into the process automation space, is that they either start and then stall, or are having a really difficult time of understanding how to start and where to begin to make sure that they're successful. So that's kind of what we're going to trying to address today. So starting with, you know, intelligent automation, there's a bunch of different technologies that are out there that is going to help you get there, and some of them, you know, from RPA, or some much more niche products such as, you know, financial close automation products, or process workflow, or imaging systems, or, you know, OCR, and then intelligent data capture, and some that specialize on handwriting, and some of them specialize in language, in you know, computer digital based forms. There are many of them. What we have found, and I think most of you have found, that most of RPA, intelligent automation journeys start with RPA. And even then, we have seen that there is many players in that space, you know, UIPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism being the top, you know, leaders on there. But we have seen that this technology, and this is why we wanted to really focus on it today, is the main technology that will enable you to go through this, and because it interacts and connects to those different technologies in a way where it can actually let you get to a really high level of automation. So most organizations start with RPA and then move to machine learning, artificial intelligence, data capture, and other technology. So that's what we're going to be focusing today. And let's talk about why it's different. The reason why RPA is different than other technologies is because it's incredibly fast to implement. You're looking at, you know, implementations that can range from a week to 3 months, and with that getting amazing value. This is really different than your regular IT implementation that can take months on end, testing on end in order to get it done, because you are relying on your existing infrastructure and systems and security to really build automation, so you don't have to do it from scratch. And then with that requires much less investment than what you're getting from almost every other IT implementation. So this is why it's incredibly attractive. And it's really, there is almost no disruption because you're using your existing processes. Granted, I have never implemented a robot using the exact same process that a human was doing before, but you have the guardrails and the guidelines and the security implementations that have already been accepted by your organization to really drive this across. So it's really, that's why it's different. Also, which is critical, this is a technology really built so that the business can drive efficiencies with support from IT, but really driven by the business. The business is the one that knows which processes are the most time-consuming, the ones that require more human interaction, and the ones that are more structured so that a bot can really do the effort. Moving along, I wanted to go into the second polling question, and I wanted to get a sense of the crowd on where are you on your RPA journey? Are you doing nothing and you're exploring the value of RPA, but really trying to think if it fits your organization? Maybe you have done a pilot or a proof of concept. Maybe you have done a couple of implementations, or you are already doing a company-wide RPA engagement. Meaning, and this is where you're doing multiple functions. You have done things in finance, HR, IT. You've moved across the different areas of your organization. Let's just give it a few seconds for people to respond. Okay, so based on the results that we're seeing now, we have more than half really exploring or doing nothing. We only have a couple, about 20% that have done more than one process and they have implemented it across. I think that this is very representative of where organizations are today. You have about 20% of organizations that are doing something and have implemented RPA, but a lot of the organizations are really starting in their journey. And with that, they're just thinking about ways to get started, what technology to choose from. And I'm hoping that today's session really helps you go through that. Of course, for the people who have already done it and for those that haven't, so what are the benefits of this? And of course, people are trying to get productivity, cost savings as a main driver. Well, we have seen that, of course, you have the 40% cost savings and 50% productivity gains, and sometimes even higher than that, depending on the process that you're choosing. What we have seen is that this is an incredible enabler for digital transformation. And let's talk about that. So it's basically being able to structure your data in a way where all the data that is being processed today manually can now be stored and reported on, reviewed almost on a timely basis. You can use it as an enabler for BI and analytics. We have, I don't know how many clients of mine have basically used this technology not to reduce costs, but to actually be able to see operational data from the previous day every morning that you just couldn't do it with people before. So it's an incredible BI enabler, but also revenue enabler. So we have other clients that have used it to reduce the order cycle times, not necessarily to reduce costs, but to make sure that you reduce that cycle and be able to bill your clients quicker, and with that increase your cash flow. So there are many reasons why you do this, but of course at the beginning a lot of the organizations are looking at cost savings that are definitely there. Just to add a little bit of color on our experience, we have actually seen that very rarely a payback period of an implementation of RPA goes beyond a year. So, which is incredibly powerful in IT implementations. That's almost unheard of. So that's what you should be looking as you're going through your automation journey. And with that, where to start? Who is doing RPA? So RPA is being adopted almost at every single area of companies. Most organizations are starting with finance and accounting because of some areas that require incredibly repetitive tasks that can be automated. Specifically on the accounts payable end, you have everything from invoice processing to vendor master, to, managing inquiries, and trying to achieve touchless invoice processing. Those are the kind of things that people start, but also on the areas of cash application, collections, even, specifically reconciliations that need to be done on a daily basis, such as bank reconciliations. Bot can really help you there. And that's where most organizations start. And then they have moved historically into HR and operations. I think I wanted to also add a little bit of color onto what we have seen. Even though, these are generally the places where people begin, we have never done the exact same process, or very, very rarely have we done the exact same process for two different organizations. Every organization has different issues, different problems. They have different technology already implemented that enable them to do, different things in an automated way. But in reality, every organization knows where they're throwing people at a problem. Every organization knows where there's repetitive and there's a bottleneck for things that need to be inputted manually. And that's where, you have to step back, really look at your operation and understand where can this technology be implemented. So going into, okay, now that we know that this is being done in many different areas, so what are the key considerations to be successful? To me, and this is where I think this is the key components of being successful in your RPA journey, is to achieve organizational adoption, meaning everybody at the different levels of the organization is excited about the technology, is bringing forth new opportunities. They trust the results of what the bots are producing, and because of that, it's expanding. So what are the things that we need to look at? So first, you need to have realistic expectations. 100% automation is almost impossible to achieve. It's got to be an extremely simple process, or something that in nature is incredibly simple. Usually, and this is where a lot of people underestimate operational complexities. You don't know how many times I've seen managers of different organizations saying, no, what specific this work is extremely standard. There is no exceptions. This is incredibly automatable. But once you get down into the nitty gritty, which is really what makes an implementation successful, you're going to see a lot of exceptions. You're going to see a lot of different things that you really can't control. And this is where having a really good process design creates trust. Building trust in the technology, and not in the fact that UiPath or Blue Prism or Automation Anywhere work. I think that is a proven fact by now. It's more about making sure that the people who are in the trenches working with the bots trust that the bot is doing the right thing, and that the results that they're getting are what they're supposed to be getting. That to me is what enables real growth in your automation journey. How many times have you heard of, hey, that automation is impossible to do, that robot won't work, or the robot isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, so people revert back of doing things manually. That is a typical first steps of an automation journey that has been, in the past 3 years. We have been doing this for now 5. I would say that on the first year, we struggled with it. We learned from it. And now we really understand what it really does that take. And one of the key things that enable us to do that is that for 22 years as Oxys, we have been a business process oriented organization, which is what really drives a successful RPA implementation. People who know how to, dissect a business process, understand exception management, really think about what can go wrong, and work that into the automation design so that somebody's there to catch that, and there is no transactions or situations where data is going to a black hole that nobody can actually take care of. And the last thing is value capture. Of course, the organization as a whole is trying to be more profitable, trying to provide better customer service, trying to be better. And at the levels of management, of course, they're making an investment. We want to make sure that there is a payback to the work that is being done, which now will actually drive organizational adoption at all levels. And so what have we seen that makes that work? So because of this, and now we know, we have actually implemented basically a algorithm per se to understand where do processes lie. So we now have a way of really understanding what is the complexity of a process based on different characteristics of the process. And with that, we have been able to really be able to say this project is going to take us 7 to 8 weeks. It's going to be a medium complexity or a low complexity. And with that, our customers are feeling comfortable that they're going to hit their timelines, but also there's going to be a security on the budget and the investment. We actually provide fixed fee implementations so that our customers know that the business cases they're going to be getting are going to be taken care of. One of the big things that you're going to see as part of an automation journey dying is when you have an expected investment of $40,000-$50,000, and then you are up to $100,000 and nothing is in production and nothing works. So immediately the project is meant to die. So this is how we've actually gone around that process and basically said, hey, we'd rather work on a fixed fee project so that you feel comfortable that you're going to be making it, but we are also incentivized to deliver as fast as we can. So it really builds a really good relationship with our customers. So this is a way, I'm not saying this is the only way, but I would say that this is a way that we have found to actually try to, fulfill our end of what we believe the organizations need to really achieve adoption in their automation journey. So that said, I wanted to go into, the polling question number 3, which is, if you had a challenge, what has been the primary challenge of, moving along your intelligent automation journey? Is it a funding? Is it selecting the right tools and technology that has taken a long time? Is it finding the right resources to execute the program? Maybe you only can use internal resources, or you're looking for the right partner to help you that, or let's give it a second for people to respond. Okay, so it seems like 60% of you basically have chosen funding the innovation, and it is true. Funding the innovation starts with creating a business case that actually helps you identify how you're going to pay off for the technology. At the beginning, you will find that there is some additional investment that needs to be done in licensing, so you got to find a really good business case to really justify that. But you will see, and we can have discussions around how really this is a technology that can be actually self-funded within a 12-month period. So we should be able to look at different processes and say, hey, if we do this project, you're actually going to see self-funding within 1 year, and that's one way that you can go around that, or actually plan for your next budgetary process. So looking at what should be the journey in RPA. So one of the big things that people don't do is actually have a vision. They just decide, hey, let's start with a POC, let's test out the technology. If it works, then we'll move along and try to find new processes. And it works. You start, you do the process, it may be successful, but then focus is not really there. You don't have the executive sponsorship, or the focus on what are the things that RPA can do for the organization. And this is where having a true vision of what automation is going to play a role in your organization really helps drive investment, resources, and thought around where are the biggest opportunities to do. And this is where we believe where most organizations that really want to go into the automation have made an investment. They have licensing, they have processes, and then they stall. It happens time and time and again. They do begin and then they stall. And this having a right vision of where are the areas that are more prone for having good business case around automation, I think needs to be laid out very early on the process. And that needs to be revisited, by the way, every 6 to 12 months. There should be a revisiting, at least a small, I would say, exercise to understand where that can be. Then doing the proof of concept. Of course, everybody wants to start. What is a proof of concept? You want to make it not so simple that doesn't prove the value, or not so complex that it actually makes it really hard for you to deliver on your goals. So going through that proof of concept is critical to actually, prove that the technology is going to work for you. But then how do I expand? What operating model should I have? What type of resources should be devoted to the RPA journey? Should I use external consultants? Should I do it all in-house? And then how do I feed the actual the journey? How do I feed the program? How do I find new processes? How do I justify the implementation of them? So this is kind of the three main steps that you're going to go through as you're going down your path of automation. That being said, once you get down there, you start looking at the different services that a RPA program should have. We call it Center of Excellence. It doesn't necessarily need to be called that. But there are at least 7 different things that you need to have, right? You need to have your RPA model, who's going to be involved and how, or you're going to do it all captive, or is it going to be, or meaning in-house, or you're going to use a third party to help you. But then how you're going to organize the different opportunities that are coming up. What type of governance are you going to have? Who is going to be involved? Who is going to approve the processes? How is everything going to be reported up to the organization to make sure that the right decisions are being made? And having the right structure and the people and the talent that is required to make sure that you're successful at this. And this is one thing, number 5 to me is one that is interesting because it's almost always the most overlooked one, which is actually measuring performance and quality, doing proactive maintenance on the bots. The robots are not supposed to be built and forget. You're supposed to make sure that applications haven't changed, that there is no better way to do things. There's got to be stakeholder feedback on a regular basis, at least twice a year on the process. And then making sure that you actually report up what the robots are doing for the organization and what is the actual benefit that is being received. So that gets us to the 3 different scenarios that you can choose from, right? You can do this all in-house, which is generally perceived as a low cost. This is where most people gravitate to. Hey, let's do it ourselves. We can make this happen. But it's not necessarily the lowest cost. It can be deceiving, right? If you don't have the right talent, you don't have the right experience, you may have a lower hourly rate, but this can actually end up costing a lot to organizations in, over budgeting, in time spent doing the implementations, not getting the value capture when expected. And it can actually create highest risk. It also creates the dependency on specific resources that are really focused only on your organization, that are not coming with a different point of view as you're going through your RPA journey. And we have seen that, working now with more than 24 different organizations, we had actually seen how we can bring opportunities and ideas that we found in other organizations, other industries, and making those processes even better. Then you have the second one, which is, we're just going to help, get help on the implementation part, and then we're going to operate it. We're going to have trained staff that are going to be supporting everything that has been built. And yes, that reduces your risk. It's perceived as a highest cost. For the same reasons that I mentioned before, I believe that, that's debatable. But at the end, these are people who are coming in, implementing something, and then leaving, which, creates a difficult transition setup implementation that needs to be done. Whereas we have seen that most organizations decide to work with a partner for the long run, and basically creating a hybrid. There's going to be a lot of roles that need to be played on the RPA journey, and having some internal staff that can actually provide the subject matter expertise on the processes and on the industry and specific issues of the organization, and then having people who are specialized in the automation space and also in the supporting of those bots on the long run to play a big role, can actually provide a really good cost-effective model to maintain those bots. Just as a simple data points, we have seen that you need about 30 to 40 processes to justify a full-time equivalent to be just supporting bots. And that is a lot of bots that need to be built. So that's why leveraging a third party that can give you fractional FTEs can really bring good value. So that being said, I wanted to move on to the polling question number 4. So what is the operating model you think about when you're thinking about your RPA organization? Is it leveraging always in-house resources, partnering with external, doing a hybrid, or you don't know? Let's just give it a second. Awesome. So we have 50% that haven't decided, knowing that from our first from the first question, about 60% had not started. I think that's in line. But the rest, it's leveraging a partner in some sort of way. About 40% are choosing to do it in a hybrid model, just like I mentioned, which is great because I think it's in line with what we think should be the most successful way to move on your journey. So with that, I just wanted to give Diego the last words of our presentation, and then we can get into actual Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you, Eduardo. Yeah, and kind of like one last thought, because I mean the ball is moving, and if you don't do anything, I mean the ball is gonna roll over you, So I mean basically doing nothing is not an option, A lot of finance executives, a lot of finance organizations, I mean they think that with automation they are gonna lose control, or it's too expensive. And I think so that, I mean, during the last 30 minutes, we were like sharing with you that is not, I think so that it's a fact that the resistance to technology adoption is more like a cultural thing, a cultural component versus an operational issue. And now with the COVID, I think so that COVID speed up the entire adoption of digital transformation and automation. And as I was mentioning at the beginning, you cannot afford we have like a other pandemic, like the one that we are suffering right now. Your employees, they're not going to be able to perform the work because A, they are sick and they cannot work, or second, they're trying to work at home, but they don't have the infrastructure and they cannot perform at the same levels of efficiencies, So I mean, I think so that automation is going to play an important role. And one last thought that I think is important. You don't need to see like automation only under the cost savings perspective, It's more than cost savings, In this case, like the business continuity, I think so is like an important topic to keep in mind, revenue enablement. So I mean, it's not only about cost savings, it's going to provide you like a way more benefits than the cost savings. I mean, and with that being said, I think so that we can like share with you all the ideas and topics that we were together for today's conversation. So I mean, more than happy to open the floor to any questions that you may have, and I'm happy to answer all the questions. So I don't know, I mean, I think so that we are...
I have a couple of questions here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with this one. I'm in the process of evaluating what RPA software to select. So in the very early stages, what are your thoughts on UiPath versus Automation Anywhere and Blue Prism? Those are the 3 ones that they recommended me.
Yes, thanks, Fabi. So, that's the same question that we asked ourselves about 4 years ago. We started this and immediately we went there. So let's start with technology. So Blue Prism was the first, is the pioneer on the technology. They're all 3 great platforms. I have to say that from the beginning. So what we did is that we looked at all 3, and we saw that Blue Prism was a little bit more difficult to implement across an array of different technologies. And it took more coding knowledge, and it was more difficult to get trained as a platform. Because of that, we decided to move from it and really focus on Automation Anywhere and UiPath. When, as I think Diego mentioned at the beginning, we are a business process outsourcer. So we provide finance and accounting services to organizations in the US from our center in Costa Rica. And we basically had a playground with J.D. Edwards, SAP, Oracle, many homegrown systems that our clients were using So it was a great place to really look at these technologies and put them head to head once against each other. So we trained 3 people on both Automation Anywhere and UiPath, and we did a bake-off. At the end, we thought that the licensing, flexibility, the implementation timeline, the debugging tool, and where we also saw the funding of both organizations that was happening. I think that as you guys may know, UiPath has already received more funding than all the other platforms combined. We thought that it was going to be able to bring a better technology at the end, and that's why we chose it. In fact, looking 4 years now into the future, UiPath is the #1 platform out there, and that's our position. It doesn't mean that automation is not going to do the work, but I would say that that's why we believe, and that's being reinforced by the fact that for Gartner and Forrester, both that rank RPA platforms for 2.5 years now. Well, 2 years in a row have ranked UiPath #1. That would be my position.
Thank you, Eddie. I have a question here regarding OCR. So it says, do RPA solutions like UiPath also include some type of OCR capabilities, or are they bought separately?
So yes, they include native OCR capabilities. Now, these are not meant for things like invoice processing. These are meant for things like I want to, in the middle of the process, extract an information from a specific form that it's PDF or maybe it's an image. But I know it's always standard, and I'm going to go in and extract that data. For unstructured OCR, you should be looking at different technologies. That said, UiPath and Automation Anywhere and I don't know, Blue Prism, but they offer technologies such as the IQ bot on Automation Anywhere or the new intelligent data capture from UiPath, and they're all charged separately at a per page cost.
Do you want to maybe explain a little bit our experience with tools, for example, like EFI Soft, and combining EFI Soft with UiPath and the comparison of pricing of EFI Soft versus maybe this new intelligent data capture?
Yeah, so I would say so for specifically invoice processing and where you're extracting the same data from unstructured documents such as invoices, we have found that players like EFI Soft, which is we're a partner of, or Abby, are great places where you're going to use that technology for. Now we know that at a per page or contract basis, you can be paying dozens of times more than having a license from like an EFI Soft, which can actually enable your automation journey or your business case to be much simpler to make. But what it generally does is that it's a tool focused only on extracting information from documents without having to do templates. So you're extracting invoice number, amount, date, remit to address. It identifies which vendor is it based on your vendor master. So that is the type of thing that you can do with EFI Soft, and then that data is being provided to your robot in UiPath, let's say, to actually process the invoice or input the data directly into the system if you don't have a direct upload function on your ERP or invoice processing tool.
Okay. I have another question here. So it says, when it comes to hiring and recruiting RPA developers, what's the typical background that has worked for you when recruiting this type of developers?
That is a great question, because we started with the transition from just a regular developer, Java or whatever you wanted, into RPA development. And it was really difficult to make that transition because this is a business-oriented coding solution. It's not a hard code, line-by-line transaction, like line-by-line coding. So we found that people who have a finance inclination that come from a business background have been amazing hires. So we actually had people who were working inside of finance and accounting, but they were great at building models. They were great at, doing VCO Visual Basic macro building. And we transitioned them. We went through the training of UIPath and with some database and some additional database training and some additional code training from our solutions architect, they are now our top performers in RPA development because they know about business process and they can themselves think about the exceptions that may happen. Hey, in the past, in my business, I was receiving these forms, but what happens if they come in a different format tomorrow? I need to code a specific rule that will say, if this is in this way, I need to communicate it to somebody. And that's how you become successful. So, hey, I'm not going to say coders are not great for this. They do. They actually learn it quicker. But at the end, they themselves feel like it's cheating because it's not line by line coding.
Mm-hmm.
Great question, by the way.
I have a question about size. So it says, my organization is not that big. Do you think that RPA can still work for us? How can I know what is the minimum right size for RPA to apply?
So of course, the larger you are, the more opportunities you're going to have. That is a natural. But that being said, we have actually built bots for nonprofits that have finance and accounting teams of 4 people. In a way, it depends on what you want from the business case. This technology, like Diego mentioned, like I mentioned in the past, you're not doing this only for the sake of cost saving. You could actually build bots to, like I said, increase visibility, increase your capacity, make your business more scalable, make information flow faster. But even then, you're going to find, we have seen that you're going to find at least 4 to 5 processes that will be great for you and it'll more than pay for themselves. You might not have to go through a 4-year, RPA program and you won't have a COE, but there's definitely going to be value that can be found in almost every organization that has, at least I would say half a dozen team members working on the finance and accounting team.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that depending on the industry where they are, they may not have a big finance and accounting team, but because of their industry, they may have a big team, let's say in operations. For example, if it's a small insurance company or if it's a small, I don't know, healthcare company, right?
Yep.
Do you want to maybe tell a little bit about those use cases beyond finance and accounting that you have seen? Mm-hmm.
That's a really good compliment because about 50% of what we have done is non-finance and accounting related at all. Most of the biggest business case that we have actually found are more related to operational issues like order processing or pricing or extracting data to make decisions on a specific order in many industries. So we have actually done in the hotels area where we're actually trying to make sure that all no-shows on hotels are being charged to organizations, and which is something that is very likely done manually, but is very time sensitive. You got to make a choice the next day when the person doesn't come into the hotel. Or pricing on organizations that depend on oil price fluctuations, that the pricing is constantly moving. Even though they had a really small finance and accounting back office, they had a very big order processing team because of that. So that's what I'm saying. You're going to know based on your operations, where can this technology be thrown at? And it's not necessarily your standard invoice processing vendor master. You may not be adding a lot of vendors, but it may not be there. But we have found that there's always a place where there is a lot of transactional repetitive work being performed, or where this technology can be used to enhance customer service or actually enhance visibility to the business.
Awesome. I have a question about implementation timeline that I guess it's going to be tricky to respond, but it says, what is the typical timeline for automating a process with RPA based on your experience?
Yes. So the first thing is that the first bot always takes a little bit longer because you have to set up the infrastructure where the bots are going to be sitting. All accesses to the different applications need to be completed. So usually that phase, and I don't count that as part of the implementation timeline, can take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, which is more of IT understanding what needs to be done, setting up that infrastructure, providing access to the developers so they can come in either a VM solution, VPN, almost anywhere that we can do a remote desktop session to that server. And that usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks. We have seen organizations do it in 3, but it's not your standard. And then depending on the level of complexity, I think I was mentioning it. So let me very quickly go to this slide. So depending on the level of complexity, and this means about the number of applications that I need to go in, the number of exceptions, the number of steps, if it's structured data, if it's unstructured data, if I have to implement OCR, anything can range from 4 weeks to about 12 on the really high end. Most of them are in the 6 to 8 week range, most of them. If I would say about 60% of all processes are going to fall between the low and medium complexity process. So you're going to see really fast results. And this includes documentation, development, testing, and by the end of your 6 to 8 weeks, something is in production and in hypercare. So we're technically still in the process, but it's already live. I think that's it.
And I think that we have like 4 minutes left, and I have a couple of questions, but this one is actually very interesting. So I think that I'm going to wrap up with this question. And then if you guys want to have any closing remarks. But this one is, how do you typically decide whether a process requires attended or unattended functionality?
Yes. So for the people who haven't started, I think I want to clarify the difference between the two. So attended bots are robots that work, usually they're installed directly on somebody's laptop. So it becomes like a digital assistant. Think about it that way. And unattended bots work 100%, like it's mentioned, unattended without any human interaction. They're triggered by schedules, or they're triggered by events. And they work on the background, on a server, on the cloud, or on-prem. And it's basically invisible. It's just running without any human interaction. There is, and I guess the component and on the question is that there is very different pricing points for both of them, given the level of automation for both. So usually what we do is that attended bots, they need to be triggered at specific moments by a user. So let's say you're a customer service agent, you're receiving a request now, and you want a response now. So you would use an attended bot to be able to trigger that on demand. So we would have the bot built already in your laptop. If you're receiving this information, you want to say go and extract order history because somebody's asking you about the order status. So you're going to have a bot. You're going to put on the customer number. You're going to do click, and the robot is going to pop the order history in front of your laptop. So this is a use case for a attended bot. Now, if you're running operational data reports overnight, you want to use an unattended bot that it's extracting information when nobody needs to be triggered. You can schedule it overnight, and then by the time you come in, you have all those reports already for you. Another reason why to do attended bots would be if there is a absolute need for human interaction. So let's talk about it. You have a CAPTCHA situation, a robot that requires a specific input that only a human can provide, such as a bank fob, or like you need a code that it's on you, is physically on a person. The robot needs to interact with the person, you provide that data, and then you click on for it to continue. So that would be another reason why you would use a attended bot. Another reason why you use attended bot is because you need to lower the cost of your implementation as much as you can, and you can only pay so much, and you are going to give up the ability to have this run without any human interaction just because of a budget situation. Those would be the reasons why.
Okay, so I think that we are reaching the time. So if we don't have any more questions, Fabi, there are like more questions in the chat or in the line?
No, I don't have more questions. What I told the audience was that if they wanted to get a copy of the presentation, because some people ask for a copy, to please send us their email. And I also left them my email in case that they have any questions after this, if they want to reach out to any of you, to make sure that, they can reach out and we can schedule separate time to discuss.
Some people join like a little late, so happy to share with you guys the presentation. And after that, happy to have a conversation with you guys. So again, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you the CFO Leadership Council to put that one together, to invite us to participate in the panel. And I hope at least during the last 50 minutes, you learn a little bit more regarding automation and at least have this kind of a key kind of topics clear in order to reach the successful automation program. So thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.